Goodness. Let's take Jeroen. Number 4.
Jeroen in Aruba.
Jeroen.
You're on with Don and Matt.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Jeroen, you're on.
Okay, not in Aruba actually. Since Aruba was the only known island to your call screener, I'm from Curacao, which is next to.
Oh,
I know where Curacao is.
I know of that. Yeah.
So thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, he would have had a hard time spelling that too because it's got the squiggle.
Yes, yeah, the Cedilla. That's right.
Yeah. I at least knew it was there. I didn't know what it was called. My apologies.
Yes. Let me do this as quickly as possible so you guys can go on to the next call. I recently had a chat actually with a conservative Catholic lady, and I'm an atheist. I don't set out to actually deconvert people. There are several reasons for that. First of all, lately we usually get either Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons here, not Catholics. And I don't know anything about the Jehovah's particular sect or Mormons, so I don't engage with them. The second reason is that I've recently been diagnosed with autism, with some Asperger traits. So communication is not my strong suit. That's also a reason why I don't actually engage with people. But this lady, well, she was Catholic, and I'm culturally Catholic. When I was very, very young, I still believed in the Catholic version of God. So I invited her in because, she was proselytizing door to door. And, there was an additional reason why I invited her in. It's because she said she had a very crazy reason for the existence of God, or evidence for the existence of God. And it was, I kid you not, in March 1966, the Beatles said they were more popular than Jesus. In November 1966, God sent Yoko Ono to destroy them.
So that's actually really good. And interestingly,
if you're calling in to make a joke, you got a good one.
But all these, while the Beatles broke up, all these years later, they're still more relevant than Oasis, who thought they were bigger than the Beatles.
Yeah, but anyway, so I invited her in, and it was actually a 3-hour conversation. I had nothing better to do that day, so basically I had evidence again for all her assertions. She said we talked about gender identity, and I asked her whether she knew about complete androgen insensitivity syndrome, which means that a person with an XY chromosome can look outwardly indistinguishable from women. She did not know about that. And I also asked her to hit me with her best evidence for miracles. And like many Catholics, of course, she did the miracle of the sun at Fatima. And she asked me how it was possible that so many people saw the same thing. And I asked her, well, how do you know that you saw the same thing, that they saw the same thing? Because people tend to convince themselves of something, or they lie about having seen something to fit in. And
or they embellish the story later.
Yeah, and she asked me what my evidence was of that. And I said, well, I showed her, because we were at my house, I grabbed my laptop and I showed her actually a story about the Asch conformity experiment, how people actually pretend to have seen something to fit in, or actually convince themselves that they saw it. And I kid you not, it was like the look in her eyes was like an error message on a computer screen. And she was quiet for about 10 minutes after that. And, she thanked me for the conversation. She left. And a month later, I ran into her again. But it's odd. It was not my intention. She went full nihilist. She was not doing well. And, I can't say I'm sorry I had the conversation with her, but I do feel contrite because she was obviously struggling with, the new situation. I mean, I didn't expect to convince her, but in hindsight, she turned out to be very, very, open-minded. She listened to my evidence.
So you feel that you were successful in deconverting her?
She certainly doesn't believe in any gods anymore.
Okay.
And,
okay.
Yeah,
well,
it's so.
Well, I think one thing to talk about or think about is what did she gain and what did she lose? right? She lost some delusions. She might have lost a community and her worldview that had been built up. But if it was kind of a false worldview, maybe it's not so bad that she had to sort of start over, and build up some different blocks to come up with a different worldview. And you might be sympathetic to the fact that you may have caused this crisis in her life at a particular time, which may or may not have been, that the best time for her or whatever. But I think that at the end of the day, she's going to be better off.
Well, one of the things is, yes, you had a conversation with her where you were open and honest, and what's happening to her now is not because of you. What's happening to her now is because of the religion that she was taught. It was basically this religion has lavished all sorts of ideas on her, and she's built up a worldview around it. And then when she finds out it's not true, it's the religion that set her up for this damage, not you. Now, if you have the opportunity to continue interacting with her, there are resources that you can point her to, not just recoveringfromreligion.org, but there may be other I don't know if there are secular organizations in Curacao or not.
Not many.
But there are certainly, if she has internet access, there are resources through Recovering from Religion as well. But what needs to happen is that, while a lot of, there are many atheists who initially fall into nihilism, and some of them stay there or seemingly stay there for ages, having your worldview smashed is not a trivial thing, and it impacts some people more than others, and she needs some resources and help. And so if you run into her and see her again, talk to her about how she's doing, and if she's not doing particularly well, offer her those resources and let her know that she's not alone, and that there are many people who had those beliefs. Basically, religion keeps building you up and building you up and building you up, and then when somebody knocks it out, it'd be like if you were one of those terrible singers that auditioned on American Idol, but everybody in your family had kept telling you were this wonderful singer, and then you wind up being mocked in front of a nation because you're actually terrible. The mockery is mean. I'm not excusing the mockery, but if somebody just flatly said, you are not in fact a good singer, the damage that was done in that awakening is the responsibility of all those people who falsely built you up the entire time. And once you realize, I'm not a good singer, then you're going to stop doing that, but it doesn't have to, completely destroy your world.
Right.
I understand. No, the thing is, looking at because I've been watching the Atheist Experience for a while. I guess all the intractable people there are people who say that Atheist Experience turned them atheist, but there are also many intractable people. So I didn't actually expect to be successful, let alone cause a crisis, because we all have biases. Even I have biases.
Yep. If we knew the magic words to deconvert people, we'd be uttering them all the time.
Yeah.
We don't generally know those things.
It's different for everybody. People believe for different reasons. They're going to give it up for different reasons.
Because when I was talking to her about the Fatima thing, I said, well, the people went to Fatima fully expecting to see a miracle. That expectation created a bias. And I told her, I don't think they're crazy or dumb for having that bias. I told her an anecdote about myself that everybody has biases. For example, we were having a beach barbecue 7 years ago, and we ran out of ice cubes. I had to go buy them. But my father told me not to buy from Chinese mini-marts because there was a health scare. Because the Chinese, apparently, they didn't pay attention to health or safety codes. So we said, find the local ones. So I was driving around, and most of the mini-marts nowadays have been taken over by the Chinese on this island. And at some point, I stopped at a mini-mart called Toko Kufe. And I said, oh, Kufe, oh dear, another Chinese one. But I saw an Afro-Curaçaoan lady stand in there. So I got out of my car and asked her, well, what's a lady like you working, doing in a Chinese mini-mart? And she said, well, Chinese mini-mart? It's not a Chinese mini-mart, it's Toko Kufe. And Kufe means with faith. So I had so much China on the mind that I saw something in my own paternal language as Chinese.
Yep, we do that all the time. Well, I would encourage you to go on to your next victim.
Anyway, thanks. I feel much better. I still feel very bad about causing the crisis, but I suppose it was out of my hands. Thanks for taking my call, guys.
Take care. No, it sounds like you actually had a very sensible and nice conversation, and she just
the things we should
took it to heart, which is awesome.
we should feel bad about intentionally, maliciously mistreating people. You should never feel bad about honestly expressing what you believe, especially if you're doing it from a point of view of, I care about somebody else. I want to have a conversation. There are people, a very good friend of mine made a post about how a lot of times people will offer their opinion when it's completely unwanted, and that's just crap, and you shouldn't do that. And I would agree that that's true if the person you're offering it to is the type of person who doesn't want it or wouldn't appreciate it. And it would also be true for people who are like opinion mongers, like, let me jump in here and do this. But if there's somebody who cares about somebody else and they see them struggling with something that they know the fix for or they've been through, offering their opinion and those types of things, that's just compassion. And, you shouldn't, not only should you not be putting people down for compassion, but, you shouldn't feel bad for being compassionate or honest. I mean, there are people who are going to look at today's show and go, God, Matt was a jackass to 4 callers. And then there are other people who are going to look at it and say, oh, Matt wasn't a jackass to 4 callers. Matt wanted to make sure that we got onto real arguments and real shows and cared more about what listeners or people who were going to make sensible, reasonable arguments or what they thought were sensible and reasonable arguments. And you can see it both ways. And either of them could be right. I have intentionally been a jackass on occasion. Like, I'm going to taunt Kanye. And that's really me poking because I don't think I'm ever going to hear from him because I think he's too scared to come debate an actual atheist.
Yeah. Talk smack, man.
But it's reasonable to look at things both ways. But if you know that you sat down and you had a conversation with somebody and all you did was openly express, kindly what you thought and answered somebody's questions, if that ultimately resulted in them being sad or worse off, you have to look at the other aspect of this. Why did it make them sad? And that's why I bring up the fact that it was religion that set them up for the fall. Just like the people who, people will, oh, let me get my Christian friend to call in. That's like saying, hey, you should go on American Idol.
Right.
And I'm just,
we had that
I'm
kid
the Simon
got
Cowell.
to get his mother to call in, and she didn't quite know what she was in for.
I had a conversation, and I talked about that afterwards. I had a conversation with that guy. He was not trying to set his mom up.
Oh, okay. I'm glad to hear that.
He had just become incredibly frustrated with their conversation, and he knew he couldn't do anymore, and he thought maybe we could.
I see.
And after that conversation, I apologized because he wasn't doing what I thought he was. It's just that his mom's arguments were so bad and she's so confused that sometimes it comes off as a parody. It's Poe's law that you can't parody a belief because somebody out there actually believes it.
Yep.